Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. In today's Tier 2 video for the month of August in 2020, I wanted to speak with you all about some important lessons that I've learned. I am turning 30 on August 27th of this year, and I thought it would be a good time to sort of reflect. Not that I'm not kind of always doing that, but really think about some of the important things that I've learned over the course of 3 decades, which to some might sound very young and to others might sound very old. I think I'm kind of in the middle in terms of how I feel. So I have my stuffed duck jalapeno here. This is actually Jalapeno Jr. Jalapeno Sr. has since gone on, so RIP, but Jr. is still kicking and going to be my little buddy while I talk. So, this is in no way a fully comprehensive list. Obviously, it would be very difficult for me to, first of all, remember out of context, and second of all, summarize every important lesson that I've learned. And one of the important lessons that I've learned is that you can't force your lessons upon other people. You can tell them what you know. You can try to help them. You can earnestly do everything you can to guide someone. And even if you feel very strongly that you 100% know that what you're saying is true or correct or in their best interests or will benefit them in some way, sometimes people just have to learn things on their own before they understand it. So I don't even think it would be worthwhile for me to spout off, like 30 things I've learned or something. I wanted to just pick some of the ones that feel most important to me and share them with you. So I've been comprising a list over the past few weeks since I got the idea for this video. And I guess I'm just gonna go in order. The first one is important lesson is that being you is a fluid thing. You are never going to just nail down like these 5 things are what it means to be Elo. It doesn't. People don't work that way. People are complex, very complex, and although we see a lot of depictions in movies and TV shows and books of these characters who are very clearly one thing, sure, they might have other characteristics about them, but they are the shy one or the loud one or the one who always achieves or whatever. You can probably think of these archetypes in any thing you like, whether it's Sex and the City or a cartoon, a manga, doesn't matter. Your favorite superhero movie, everyone has their quirk, and that is what seemingly makes them them. And I think that we go off in this deep search of who am I? And then at different moments in time we realize, oh, this is who I am. And we think like we have it figured out, and sometimes it's not what we want. So then we go on a sort of personal quest to be something else. For example, when I was younger, very young, I guess, I was really outgoing and loud, and I didn't have a lot of like social awareness. So even though people told me a lot that I was like fun to be around and had just like a positive energy, and that I was insightful, those were kind of like the main things that I heard when I was a child. The flip side to that was learning that I was too loud and too talkative and too I didn't have self-restraint about a lot of things, and I still don't to this day. But it bothered me a lot to have those realizations that like, hey, not everyone appreciates your attitude all the time. Even if it's a positive attitude, you annoy people when you are so bubbly and loud and happy all the time. So I then started thinking, well, who do I admire and envy, and what sort of people am I attracted to? And it's always been more reserved, quiet, thoughtful, calm people that seem to have it together and be more mature and respected, I guess. And I say that's who I've always been attracted to, and I don't mean that romantically. I just mean like, who do I want to emulate? Who do I look up to? I say always because I think that's the first time that I really thought about it. That was my answer. And to this day, I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm less than people who can do that. And first of all, the reality of the situation is just because someone's quiet and reserved and thoughtful and more calculating with their words does not mean that they are smarter than you or that they have it together any more than you do. They could be drowning and just as lost, and you just don't know it. So it's never really good, of course, to envy someone else anyway, because you just don't know, based on those outward characteristics, what they're really feeling or going through or thinking inside. So I think what happens is you get this idea of like, I want to be more like that, and then I'll be better, or I'll be more likable, or I'll feel better inside, and I'll have more successful relationships, or whatever you aspire to naturally. And humans just aren't like that. We have elements in us that come out at different times. There are times when I'm reserved and thoughtful, and I probably come off as that person to someone else. And there are times when I'm loud and obnoxious. There are times when I'm smart and times when I make foolish mistakes. Being who you are is not something that you can just sum up. It changes constantly. I'm not the same person I was 5 seconds ago. Like, even just processing these thoughts, or my temperature has changed, or like it constantly changes. Sorry if you can hear some background noise. My dog is sleeping hard and she's snoring, so sorry about that. So I guess that would just be point number one, is don't waste your life trying to figure out who you are in that sense. Like, you're not one thing. You're not going to be one type of character. You're going to be able to relate to all of the characters in some way. Maybe some of them not, but most of them you're going to say, oh, I have this character's, I relate to their love of food. And I relate to this character's enjoyment of metal music, whatever. Like, it greatly varies when you're a human. So it's more important to enjoy the relationships that you have and turn outward instead of focusing so much on like who you are. It doesn't matter, because in a year, in a few weeks, in 10 years, you're not going to be the same person. And I'm sure that most people can look back at their previous selves and know that, like, hey, I'm different than I was when I was 20. I'm different than I was when I was 10. Like, drastically different. So you may have some sort of core values or quirks or feelings that you think of as who you are. Like, I'm very strong in my moral beliefs. That's a tenet of me that I've carried for all of time. It just seems inherent and built in. But that's not all you are. You're gonna be a million other things as well. And those are just sort of like the currents that you're riding on. They're the body of water, but you're still floating on top, just going downstream constantly. So in summary, just accept the fact that you are fluid. You're not one thing. You're not just this or just that. And if you want to hone some parts of your personality to be a certain way, you want to be more thoughtful, put some time in to practice being more thoughtful. There's nothing bad about that. But don't ruin your life or waste precious time seeking some answer as to who you are, or feeling like just because things have changed drastically, you don't know who you are anymore. You are whoever you are in that moment. That's you in the end. Death is the only thing that stops that. So no matter what you're going through, no matter how not yourself you feel like, that's who you are right now, and that's okay. So, okay, next point or lesson that I feel like is important to talk about. I don't know how controversial this one is going to be, but I think that if you think about it and if you hear me out, you will, at least on some level, agree. And for others, you might agree right away. The second lesson is that looks do matter. We're often told that looks don't matter, that it's what's inside that counts. And while that's true, your character does matter, looks also do matter. The way that you look influences the way that other people perceive you, and therefore the way that they interact with you. if you don't take care of yourself, people see that on you. You know, if you don't respect yourself, people see that on you. And it comes out in different ways for different people. You know, it might be a hygienic issue, it might be a health issue. There are a number of ways that this can sort of manifest, but 1000% how you look matters. If you are considered more attractive, people do treat you differently than they would if you weren't conventionally considered attractive, and vice versa. Like, there are prejudices, it's built into our society. So if you think that you're being treated differently because of the way you look, you probably are. And some of these things are worth sticking up for. You know, if you have a gap in your teeth, I don't know what other people think, but I love that. Like a gap in the middle. I think that it's really chic and sexy, and I've seen it on Black women and European women and all kinds of people. One of my friends, just a white girl that I was friends with in high school, had a gap and she kept it, and it's very distinguished to me. It's a cool personality trait, or not personality, looks trait, like freckles or whatever else. I think those things make you unique, and I think that those are the things that people will eventually come to see as beautiful or just as a part of you. On the other hand, taking care of yourself is important, and the way that you dress and style yourself, I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying that it does matter. And the reason why I'm including this on my lesson list is because I didn't realize this for a long time, despite the fact that I grew up at a point in time where if you weren't wearing Abercrombie and Fitch, you were a loser. There were trends that came and went that were so important that you were willing to pitch a fit to your parents, even if it got you grounded, because you had to have the thing that would allow you to fit in. I went through that in elementary school, middle school. By the time the 8th grade rolled around, I realized that I just was not going to fit in. And I embraced that. And I think that that is a very freeing and good thing that you can do. I'm for that. You know, I really wasted a lot of time and money growing up trying to make myself look the way that other girls, the most accepted girls, looked. You know, from a young age, whether it was starving myself or trying to buy expensive clothes that just didn't even look good on me, or, you know, doing things that made me actually feel really self-conscious and uncomfortable in my own skin in order to try to fit in, buying makeup products and styling my hair differently every day of the week because I was just looking for that one look that would be perfect, and I would finally be accepted because I was wearing the right clothes and I had the right hairstyle and whatever. It got really tiring and it was very upsetting, you know, going into the hair salon for a haircut and having a picture, I want to look like this, and they're like, okay, and they don't tell you, like, you don't really have the hair type for that, or well, I can style you like this, but it's going to be really hard to duplicate, that kind of thing. And then you leave feeling like shit, and it really lowers your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. So I'm not saying that it's a good idea to follow all the trends and make yourself like everyone else. I did feel a lot better once I just embraced who I was and allowed myself to wear what I felt good in and what made me happy. At the same time, throughout all of my high school years, while I was seen, I don't know if some of you are too young to know what this is, but seen was a subsector of people who were somewhere in between like goth and punk rock. Very distinct hair, very distinct clothing, and music that really only existed in that window of time. And I loved it. I never felt more me than I did for those years that I was seen. However, it never occurred to me that other people were judging me based on how I looked. I thought that I was cool. Like, everyone I hung out with, we all thought, this is cool. We like how this looks. We feel good about it. We have dope music. Like, it was a whole culture in and of itself. And that negated my ability to see that other people were looking at us funny. And I often wondered, why people might make fun of me or treat me differently. And it just didn't occur to me that like, hey, look at what you're wearing and what your hair looks like and compare that to what they like or what they think is normal or what is acceptable to them. Your looks matter. You can do with that information what you want. You can give everyone the finger and be whoever the hell you want to, but don't expect certain treatment if you make that decision. If you're going to be punk or scene or goth, if you're going to be popular clothing people, what do you even call those? I don't know, preppy, there we go. If you're going to be preppy, if you're going to wear designer shit, if you're going to wear clothes that make you look like you're about to go fishing, if you're going to wear clothes that make you look like you're at the beach, whatever your style is that you choose, people are making assumptions about you based on that all the time, no matter where you go. Doesn't matter. And if you are conventionally attractive, no matter what you wear, you're going to get a level of attention that people who are not conventionally attractive are not getting, or they're being treated differently than you are. So I think that's just important to keep in mind. I guess mainly because it's a self-awareness thing that it seems kind of obvious maybe, but it's really easy to ignore that, at least for me, because I was always like, well, what's on the outside doesn't matter, and maybe this is just for people who are naive or idyllic or whatever, but I tried to see the good in everyone, no matter what they were wearing or what they looked like, what their skin color was, where they were from, what their socioeconomic status was. none of that mattered to me. And on top of that, I was constantly fed this rhetoric of like, you know, beauty's only skin deep, and I don't know, just a million cliches about how looks don't matter. And I just want to reiterate that it makes a difference when you realize that they do. And if you really, really badly want to look your best and you don't have money for, I don't know, a nose job, or you don't want to get hair plugs or whatever, like, it doesn't matter what the thing is that you think will make you more attractive. You can put your resources into changing how you look, but you have to do it in a way that works for you. And I think that this is very obvious. Like, just think about someone who you know or have seen, someone famous or someone personal, who is not conventionally attractive, but they have like a, you know, a swagger to them. They have themselves figured out to the point where they are still attractive in a way. Like, they're compelling, they're alluring and charming, and you're interested in them, even if you know objectively that you wouldn't consider them conventionally attractive. I hope that makes sense. I also hope that the leaf blowing that's going on isn't super audible. If it gets any closer, I'm gonna wait. It stopped for right now, but who knows? This might be my bad luck coming through again. If it does get closer, I'm gonna wait, and so there'll probably be a break in the video. Okay, next is one that's so important, but so hard both to teach and to learn, and that is that it is incredibly important to take your time when you are interested in dating someone. I'm gonna tell you straight off the bat, this is a massive weakness for me in my history. I historically suck at taking things slow because I'm very emotional. So when I feel an attraction to someone, I'm ready to dive in because I like that feeling. I like the euphoria and the happiness of maybe this one, you know, like, I wonder what this is gonna be like. I wonder how this person is, and I want to get to know every little thing about them. And, you know, I sound psycho saying this, but it's pretty normal for a lot of people to just quickly snap into like, yes, I want this, especially because our society makes it seem like if you don't have a partner, you're missing something, and that everything's better with someone else, and that the goal of life is to find the one. Aside from which, it's in our DNA as human beings, as animals, to procreate. Whether or not we make the decision to is something that we have the option to control as human beings and to really think about critically. But we are still animals, and we do still have primal instincts and urges, and it's very normal to want that. There's plenty of science out there showing the release of like the love hormone that you get when you're attracted to someone, and it's meant to bring you together with that person for the purpose of procreating. I mean, that's just the basic science of it that none of us can escape. However, that framework is meant for a society that we don't live in, and we have come to think that mating for life is the way that it's supposed to be, just monogamous, forever relationships, and that's the standard that we hold ourselves to. So that's a dangerous recipe, because it's like pressure to find this person, and then chemically stuff going on that makes you like freak out when you find the person that you like. And then on top of that, there's this pressure of like, well, I need to be with this person forever. So it's a recipe for disaster, seriously. And it's a strong force. All of those things together make it really difficult to be objective when you're dating. And even when you think you have it figured out and that you're not going to make that mistake again and that you know better and whatever, it can still become a problem. And I've done this time and time again. And I've been through breakups time and time again, because it takes time to get to know someone. A lot of time. Intimate time. And I don't just mean sexually, but like being around them, learning their character. And then on top of that, if you really do want to stay with this person forever, you have to be willing to sacrifice things that you like in order to grow and adapt with them. It is a huge commitment, and we take dating to be so like flippant. Like, if your 13-year-old brother has his first girlfriend and they're dating, no one sits them down and says like, this is really serious, like be careful what you do. They might get a sex talk, but they're not getting a talk about romantic longevity and what that really entails. So I don't think most of us are prepared to deal with the realities of dating. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dating casually or having sex casually or not wanting to get married. You might find someone that you completely love, but you never want to have a ceremony or sign a piece of paper, and that's fine. I'm supportive of all different styles of love. And maybe for some people this information is not at all applicable, but I think for most people, regardless of the your gender, your sexual preference, your sexual orientation, whatever, if you're looking to settle down with someone, or you really want someone in your life for a long time, maybe not forever, but maybe you really want them in your life, you have to take your time, because you just don't know in the beginning who they are and what they're about. As much as you might get good vibes and you might feel like they're saying all the right things, you might feel like you're in love at first sight, that's cool, but you still have to restrain yourself and take it slow, or else you can end up in a really hurtful situation, and you'll just keep repeating that cycle over and over again to try to rectify the one that went wrong the previous time. So just take your time when you're dating. don't think that you have to find the right person at 16 or 18 or 20 or 25 or 30 or 35. Like, when you find someone that you share a mutual attraction with, just hang out with them for a while and get to know them. Don't involve the romantic stuff right off the bat. Just chill with them. See what they're like when there's no pressure on them, you know? Are they compatible with you in your beliefs, in your level of cleanliness, in your interests? There are a million different things to figure out whether or not you're compatible. And when I say compatible, I don't just mean like, oh, I like horror movies and he likes horror movies. I like Chinese food and he likes Chinese food. You can have differing opinions on something and still be compatible. If I am not at all scared of the dark, but my partner is, I can be a shield for them in that moment. If my partner is tall and I'm short, they can reach things that I can't. You don't have to be perfectly the same. You're not going for sameness, and that's not what compatibility means. Okay, I hope that makes sense. In the same vein, my second to last point that I wanted to talk about is never be with someone who restricts the things that you love. And this can apply for friends and family as well, but especially with spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever. It's incredibly important that the people you surround yourself with, and especially your partner, because they're the ones that you're closest with, they should never be stopping you from doing the things that you love. They should be supporting you. They shouldn't, if they're jealous and they don't want you to see your friend who you've been friends with for years and years and years before you even met them, they can fuck right off. Like, it's not your problem. And don't let them sit there and say, well, I have the baggage, and like, my ex did this to me and it really fucked me up, so I need you to. That is emotional manipulation. It's so wrong. It's abusive. It's not okay. Ever. You can't. There's no situation where that is an acceptable excuse. If you're struggling that much and you're suffering that much, you're not ready to be in a relationship. Go get some therapy, get some help. Don't put your problems on another human being and tell them that they have to accommodate you. I think I've touched on this once, but maybe it was in a stream, so I'll just quickly share again that a few relationships ago, at some point, I dated a guy who was very emotionally abusive and an angry person and just not a good dude. And the last time that I would have been able to see my best friend Matt, who passed away a number of summers ago, I didn't go because that boyfriend told me he didn't want me to go because he was uncomfortable with me being around Matt. Like, he was intimidated or felt nervous that I was gonna cheat on him. I don't know. Matt and I have been friends already for like 10 years by this point, so I should have been like, hey, this is stupid. But I was a little scared of this guy. He was aggressive and I just wanted him to be happy, so I didn't go. And I regret it so much. So much. I can't even tell you how much I wish that I had gone to see him that one last time, and I didn't know. He wasn't sick. He died very unexpectedly. So there's no way that I could have known that that was going to be the last time. So in my head it was fine. But I really pray for everyone out there, whether you like me or hate me, whether I like you or hate you, that that never happens to you, because it feels horrible. It feels so bad. I feel like I forsaked someone who meant more to me than almost anyone in my life. And for what? For a guy who I'll never talk to again. Don't be with someone who restricts you from the things you love, whether it's your friends, whether it's something you love to do, whether it's a show you like to watch, a magazine you like to read. There's nothing wrong with being human. You are one. If you enjoy certain things, don't let anyone stop you. And certainly don't date that person or stay with that person. Leave. I don't care what situation you're in. Leave. It's not worth it, and you are becoming less human by the second when you are accepting that kind of behavior. So the addition I wanted to make to that was that this even applies to your family past a certain age. And there are other exceptions. If you're 600 pounds and your family doesn't want to keep bringing you McDonald's, that's for a good reason. They love you, they care about you, they're trying to help you. If you have an addiction problem, if you are killing yourself with something you're doing, like smoking or drinking or whatever, if it's for your health that someone is trying to restrict you, that can be an exception. The other thing is age. Obviously, our brains are still developing into our 20s, and we're not going to have all the answers, and we're not going to make the best decisions all the time. However, you know in your heart, even when you're 16 or you're 18 or you're 20, there are certain things that you just know, whether or not they suit you. And even if it's your mom or your dad, you shouldn't let those people change those things about you or restrict those things that you want to do, no matter who they are. That is part of being you, and you have every right to be you. The final lesson that I thought was important to talk about is the fact that the people who we feel most comfortable with can sometimes be our biggest enablers, and therefore our biggest obstacles from our own growth and success. The easiest way for me to share what I mean by this is to say that when I am in a relationship with someone, or when I have a close friend, or when I had close family members, it was a lot easier for me to be weak. If I didn't feel well, or if I didn't want to do something, or if something really made me feel sad or whatever, I knew that I could go to them and say oh, I don't want to do this, and because they loved me, they would not push me to do the thing. They would instead give in to my whining, or whatever you want to call it, and support the exact opposite and say, well, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, you know. In certain situations, however, it's very valuable to do the things you don't want to do, or do the things that scare you. Other people shouldn't be able to push your boundaries, but you should be able to push your boundaries. And it's something that a lot of us stop doing once we get comfortable in a relationship, or in a relationship dynamic, if not a romantic relationship. So be aware of these things in your life. I would never have been able to grow to the point that I am now, and to gain or regain some confidence, and like do certain things that I've done, if I had continued to let those relationships be there for me. Does that make sense? Like, if I dated someone who made me feel like they could protect me through my anxiety, I wanted that. I would have preferred to feel protected than to feel anxious. Of course. I mean, who wouldn't, right? But at the same time, your accomplishments that you achieve solo, the things that you do that are outside of your comfort zone, those are the things that are going to make you grow and become a more admirable, valuable, and amazing human being. It's important to have support in your life, but it's also important to do it for yourself, and make sure that you have those moments steadily throughout your life. You shouldn't just be cruising along and letting other people relieve you of any fear or duty or responsibility or thing that you don't want to do. You're never going to feel whole. You're constantly going to be reliant upon other people, and it's going to be hard for you to get out of relationships, even the ones that are bad for you, because you depend on them for that comfort that you're not giving yourself. One of the coolest things that I've done in the last year or so was that I climbed this really, really tall adventure tower at this park. It was a rock climbing thing, and there were also like fake branches. This thing was really tall, like really tall, and I've always had the assumption that I don't have a fear of heights, and that was proven wrong really fast. I got to the top of my course and I was just like shaking I was terrified. I have not felt that level of fear in a really long time. And the cable to get down was on such a system, I think it was a magnetic system or something, to where there would be a bit of a free fall before it engaged. So you had to like kick back and just kind of wait for it to slow you down. And it was fucking terrifying. I have never been that scared doing a physical activity ever. I've never challenged myself to do something like that. I've always backed down from things like that. Even like, I can still remember to this day being 12 or 13 years old, and there was a ride at the water park, The one where you just stand on the platform and it just opens and you go like essentially straight down a tube. I wouldn't do it, like it's things like that I always back down from. And in my head I was like, yeah, I'm smart, I'm not gonna get myself killed. I wasn't gonna die. The odds of that were very, very slim. I just also wasn't giving myself the opportunity to learn that I can do it. And those moments are so, so important and so powerful, and they carry you through so much. I became violently ill within the next few days of the adventure tower, completely coincidental. And I also have a massive phobia of throwing up, to the point where I will force my body not to, because I don't want to go through it. And one of those mornings that I was hanging over the toilet bowl sick, I felt no fear for the first time. I knew I was going to throw up, and instead of feeling fear, I thought to myself, I can do this. Like, I climbed up that rock wall, I rappelled down 80 feet, I did all of this shit. I was like, throwing up is nothing. I've done this plenty of times, getting sick throughout the course of my life. Nothing bad has happened. It's actually good for my body, like, to get rid of whatever's making me sick. I just didn't care, and that was huge for me. If anyone out there listening to this has a phobia of throwing up, you know what I mean. Like, it's just the worst position that you could possibly be in. I used to actually have panic attacks out in public due to a fear of throwing up, even though there was no reason that I was gonna throw up. I would make myself feel like I was going to, because I was so scared of doing it. It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like some other shit. So that was a big moment for me. Like, just being like, you know what? I did something way harder than this recently, and I'm good. You won't have those gratifying, proud, strong moments ever if you don't step out of your comfort zone and force yourself to do the fucking thing, instead of complaining to the person who's going to tell you it's okay, you don't have to. So just take a look at those relationships around you, whether it's your parents, your siblings, your aunt, your spouse, whatever, and think to yourself, really think about, what do I rely on this person for? What is my weakness that I go to them and they make it better? And how can I push that boundary for myself to learn that I can do it and I'm worth something and I have more value than I ever thought that I did? So I hope that these lessons were interesting, if not helpful. Again, I know I can't just suddenly make everyone feel what I feel, but at the same time, it's worth it to have the seeds of these ideas in your brain, so that when the time comes for you to resonate with these things, you'll have a groundwork, you'll have some thoughts already there to build off of. So yeah, again, I'm sure there are 800 other things that I would consider to be important lessons that I've learned, but these were just some of the top ones that came to my mind that really helped change my opinion of life, of myself, just my general perspective over the last 30 years. And I hope that you enjoyed them. Thank you for listening to me, especially if you made it this far. And I'll see you in my next video.